Welcome back, everyone. Going into the third hour here of week 6, A Court of Swords. Adam, how's it going?
Oh, it's going great for me. I'm doing good.
Are you?
Yeah.
I'm glad. I'm
I
glad to
didn't,
hear
I
that.
didn't, I didn't get to kill Max yet, but
Oh,
there's
God
still,
damn it.
there's still several
And I
hours.
made it a little harder for you, too.
It's true.
Thought I'd forget about that studded arm, eh?
So the next day, you wanted to go and meet with the queen.
Mhm.
yes.
That was
First
the-
thing
that
in the
was-
morning. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So you're obviously like it's a small town. There's no like big lineup to meet them full of magistrates. So you're able to get access to the to both the king and queen.
Damn straight.
So so you're in the I guess they're like audience chamber, waiting for them to arrive, and I think you were led there by a servant, and so now you're standing in this chamber, and it's probably the nicest room in the whole town. It's mostly stone. The stonework has been embellished with these beautiful like wood carvings. It's got a big vaulted ceiling with additional wood carvings, and again they use the sunlight as a way to cast all of these sort of beautiful like shadows on the floor. And there's a scent of like jasmine and other sort of tropical flowers in the air. And somehow you're not sure the exact mechanisms of it, but somehow there's like a faint mist in the air that seems to be like drifting down from above. So there's like cool water kind of just like floating in the air.
Nope, that water's from the fucking river. We're all dead. We're all fucking
At the
dead.
end of the room, so there's like a long sort of carpet that leads up to the end of the room. There's a raised stone platform with these big, beautiful like pillows. So they don't have like a metal throne or anything. They have these like pillows that they sit on. And you've been here for a few minutes, just sort of like waiting in the room. Are you all kind of like waiting quietly, or are you talking? Like what's the feel of the moment before the king and queen arrive?
I think Zafira is just in like contemplation of like the day before or the days prior, and like Plum's death and how that was kind of her fault and all that stuff. So maybe she's like not even there in her mind. She's just thinking about the days prior. And
Yeah,
so
I mean,
she's a little bit reluctant.
You've seen plenty of men, killed with sword or spear or bow and arrow, but I don't think you've ever seen a man torn apart by giant rats before.
Yeah,
It's a-
well, it's more that like Zafira takes that death as her fault, right? So like she thinks
Sure.
what happened because like in sometimes when a soldier dies, the reason they died is because they were just outmatched in a fight. Like Plum died because Zafira and the rest of the group didn't like tell him what to do, in a sense, like misguided him in a sense, and
Sure.
maybe made him seem stronger than he actually was. So Zafira's definitely
Yeah.
taking that to heart. So it's like she's there in the room physically, but her mind is completely elsewhere.
Cool. Okay. And Velimir and Baron, what's your
Baron is just in his head constantly thinking about everything. He thinks there's just something he's missing that's the key to all of the events that are tied together. He's just in his head trying to think about the village, the town, the sick page, the kobolds, like how they all fit together. And he's just trying to figure out what he's missing.
cool? And Velimir, what are you doing?
Belamir's exterior is focused solely on the task at hand. He's looking straight ahead at the throne, waiting for the audience. In his mind, though, he's replaying Plum being attacked. He's replaying going down a bunch, getting upset at himself for allowing himself to put him in these sort of failings that led to Plum's death and the current circumstances they're in.
Right. So you're all kind of just like looking pensive and like thinking about how you got to this place and sort of what's to come. So there's a sense in the air of like quiet, nervous contemplation, I guess, when the king and queen arrive.
Belamir's doing his best to keep game face on, but inside, if you look at his eyes, it's kind of, you can tell that his thoughts are wandering a little bit.
Yeah. So when they arrive, there's a chime that's rung to signal their approach, and you see their servants first. The servants sort of pull apart the hangings that separate this room from the room before it, and so there's this gentle chime that kind of echoes through the room, and you see the king first, and she has long, straight black hair hangs down to her waist, and it's like perfectly like sheet flat. Like you'd be hard pressed to tell one strand apart from the other. So it just sort of drapes down and is cut short. She's wearing brass ringmail, so she has this like shining kind of like armor on. And she's carrying a helmet under one arm. Her face is sort of stone, like impassive. She looks very serious, and she has a white clay or mud marking her face in a war paint that looks sort of vaguely familiar to you, Zafira.
Okay.
It's a practical soldier wouldn't wear it, but it's to show that she is a soldier, that she's a warrior, and is in the same way that the president is technically kind of part of the army. All kings command some like military, not to the degree that a knight would, but some like military authority.
Right.
So technically, she outranks you. And then immediately to her side, the queen is there, and he also has like quite long hair, but his is like done up in a like a complex sort of like crown braid on top of his head. He has a dark complexion, like he spends a lot of time outside, and is wearing a sort of voluminous like tunic and pants, and then has like silk slippers on. And he's carrying a like a rather large book, and it doesn't look like ornamental in the same way the helmet is. Like the book looks worn. It's not it's not encrusted with jewels, but it looks of fine quality. And he's carrying that under his arm. And the two of them come in, and they look like they've just cut a conversation short. The queen looks a little like distracted or frustrated, and the king looks like she's just ended the conversation and is like not willing to hear anymore. Like she's got this kind of very sort of like stern look on her face when the two of them come in. And they come in, and they before they sit, they stand in front of the sort of throne of pillows. And the queen bows to you, and the king she salutes, and the king speaks first. She says, "Magistrates, you wanted to see us."
Yes, thank you for taking this meeting so quickly. Baron here has met with the page yesterday and has some thoughts on the matter. Baron, please.
First I bow out of respect, and then I'm like, I inspected the page, and unfortunately I couldn't find out specifically what's wrong with him, but he seems to be fading away, as you may have noticed. His life seems to be draining slowly from his body. Apparently he went on a trip downriver. Do you know anything more specific about this trip and what he did there?
The queen looks pointedly at the king. Something like passes between the two of them, and then the queen turns back to you, Baron. And it happens in a second. It's an eye glance, not like a full like sort of beat. And he says, the page was often fond of visiting with the commoners, both up and down river. They believed that it was important to our rule to have a personal connection with them. I was never opposed to the practice. Commander Visal, who I believe you know, was always mindful of their defense. You believe that this trip has something to do with their illness?
We are not certain, but what we do know is that to the north, the town we came from?
You came from the south. That's where.
South.
Yeah.
South, there is a fishing village where it appears that the river itself has been infected by some sort of contaminant, and the village itself seemed to the villagers all seem to have wasted away. And we don't know if it's connected, but we're here to warn you that this infection is traveling downriver, and it's soon going to hit this town, and the water that you're drinking has to be purified, because whatever affected the town up to the north of us could be what's affecting the page, and it could get here anytime.
We are also worried that the page will soon become something that is not himself, that is not of this world naturally, at least. That is why we also wanted this meeting to occur, to perhaps let you know that it might be better in the city's interest to end his life abruptly, as he will not make it.
So when you say that, one of the servants like gasps quietly, and then another servant like hisses at them like, "Shh." And then the king, she casts like a steely look over at the servants who immediately like shut up, and the king says to you, "So you believe there is no hope, that the river is poisoned, the page is doomed to die. If these things are true, if the river is sick, then so are we all. Everything flows from the river. We grow our food with its water. We drink it. There's nothing left to do here if what you say is true."
I believe it would be better to speak in complete private if you would send these guards away. You do not want these secrets getting out and for them to remain a secret.
The queen shakes her head. He says, our servants are utterly loyal. You can trust them, magistrate. Besides, with things as bad as they are, people are like to become concerned with their own business before ours. There are already rumors spreading.
The biggest fear is what you said. This city, if it does rely on the water as much as we believe it to, will not last long. The town that we visited when we first entered this region, you do not want to live in that town. You do not want to see that town. It was not something that I ever want to revisit. And the people or things within that town are once again not human. And if that is what is going to be happening to the page, it may spread. I believe it would be best to end his life as soon as possible. Baron believes he will not make it very much longer as well.
The king scowls, and she says, raising a weapon to a member of the court is not only treasonous but blasphemy, even for a magistrate. We cannot kill them before their time. If the page is meant to die, then the gods will take them from us.
Then have a blade ready as soon as he does, because you do not want him coming back.
So you've noticed, I think, Baron, the queen, his eyes have like teared up, and there's like, tears like running down his cheeks, and he says to you like directly, he says, then there is no hope.
I like to believe there's always hope, but unfortunately in this situation, we just don't know what the solution is and what is truly happening. We can only assume.
He starts to take a step towards you while you're talking, and the king puts her arm out to like stop him, like, okay, calm down. And he stops and kind of scowls at her, and he misses the rest of your sentence, so he doesn't listen. And then he looks at all three of you, kind of his eyes darting between the three of you. He says, so what caused this? What made the river sick? Is it devils? Are we under the influence of the Mara? Is that why you're here?
All we know is that someone is creating an army of the undead to the south. They are gathering corpses that are animated for some reason, and we think it's connected to. We know where they are. We beat it out of a couple of guards that they're gathering an army of the undead, but we don't know who it is or what their purpose is. We assume it could be Mara, it could not be. We're not sure.
I have informed the Court of Swords of the perhaps Mara down south. They are reluctant to send any reinforcements. I believe you will need to deal with this on your own. I do not know or even begin to know where to begin with that.
Yeah, the king scowls again, like you can see her lip curl, and she shakes her head, and she says to you, isn't that why you're here, magistrates? Who is the court going to send? More magistrates? Have you failed so entirely in your job to prevent this? Go and deal with this necromancer then.
I kind of look at Valmer and look at Baron with like a, oh God.
Oh snap.
Yeah, and then I turn back and say, they have an army. 3 of us, while skilled, cannot fight against an army. We were trying to help your town with the kobold problem. And that proved too troublesome as well because you could not help us with your guards. I believe this town has been doomed for quite some time, to be blunt. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you that, but it is not going well, as you know, and I do not know how to make it better. That is why we are here to try and figure this out, but everything we have figured out has been leading to another problem, another issue.
Yeah, so the queen like just continues to like lock eyes and scowl as you speak, and then she says, "Very well. Then if we're doomed, I'll see you in hell, magistrate." And she like turns and starts to walk away, and the queen like tries to stop her. He's like it's like Davy, and she just like gives him the cold shoulder and walks
as
away.
they're walking away.
So the queen doesn't leave. The king just is like, "I'm done with you,"
Okay,
and turns to leave.
As the queen is walking away, I just kind of stumble and I misspeak and just say, I figured there was more temperance among the royalty in these cities. I guess not. I'm kind of like looking at the king when I say this.
Yeah. I don't think she takes the bait. I think that she leaves. Like her personal servant holds the curtain aside and she leaves. And the queen sits. He just sits down on the steps and kind of like puts his hands on his head and shakes his head. And like one of the like a lock of hair from his like long complicated braid thing like comes loose and kind of hangs down in front of his face. Velimir, I think you're the closest one to him when this happens, when he sits down. And it's definitely like even for you who's not like a native to the court, like this is breaking protocol. Like the queen is meant to be a figure of like emotional strength. And that can sometimes be overwhelming for the person that is the queen. But it's the king's job to like bolster them, to be like, I'll protect you from that so that you can be emotional safely. But the king is just fucked off. And it's less like a weird taboo to like for the king to storm out, because the kings tend to be kind of like impulsive, but to abandon the queen like this is a little like unusual. There's some funny stuff going on here in terms of social protocol. And you see the queen sitting there exposed and alone in a lot of ways, and it's making the servants nervous, and and he's just sort of like despairing a little.
Velimir, I guess, slowly kind of approaches, just a few steps, not super like right next to. It's like, are you quite all right? Is there something else going on here? Something felt a little off between the two of you. Of course, I do not wish to speak about it. That is fine. We are just merely trying to understand what is going on here. The more we know, the more we can help. Yeah,
the queen looks up and he shakes his head and he says, more to it than the monsters in the hills and refugees at our walls and a sickness and the page dying and bandits as well. And if we can't finish the harvest, then famine too. And by the time the monsoon season comes, Sufontaine will be nothing more than some wet stone and dead bodies. I fear the Mara have already taken this place and that we are living in a bad dream. I only hope that we wake up to something better.
In my experience, it is very easy for our problems to overwhelm us, especially when we view them all as one big giant mass. But if we take them apart and tackle them one by one as they come at us, they are not so daunting. Keeping this mindset in your head may help you in the future. I know it is what will help me and keeps me going.
And he's been looking at you while you talk with like very like clear eyes, and you feel this sudden sense of like the queen is learning something about you in paying attention to your speech that maybe you're not intending to reveal, right? Like like sometimes you like have a conversation with someone and they're like looking at you like, oh yeah, oh I get, I'm figuring you out. Mm-hmm. You have that feeling of like vulnerability in the presence of the queen. And he nods and says, those are wise words, magistrate, but we must back them up with action. Tell me, with the hand that I have been dealt, which card do we play first? There are so many threats. The commander, bless his heart, wants only to protect the city. and has been following my orders on keeping these villagers out, but I fear that if the sickness is within already, why are we making them suffer in the fields? And these creatures that have been kidnapping children, I feel for them in my heart. You've seen their lair yourselves. Where do we begin, Magistrate? Tell me, what do you think I should do?
Baron, do you believe you could purify this water, or at least look at it to see how one could begin that process?
I'm no druid, but all priests know ways, all healing magics to try to purify water.
If
I
we
could
could
chat with the priests in town and help them, teach them how to make sure they know how to purify the water.
If we could teach that to the town, that would help. The second issue is the page. As I said before, which upset the king. He will not last, and when he does, I believe he will come back. Not
He at least
himself.
needs to be under guard at all times, just in case he does turn, or if he does die, he doesn't come back as what we fought in the first town, those creatures.
If you do not wish to do it yourself, I will stand by and wait for the moment. But he needs to be dealt with.
I honestly think this is one of the times where our tradition might make us foolish. If he turns and infects anyone else, even if already maybe has infected their servant, well, we are foolish to let that happen. But who am I to tell somebody how to heal their noble?
Yeah, the queen shakes his head as you say that, and as much in grief as in disagreement, and says, but even if it is the practical thing to do, killing of a member of the court is a black mark on your soul. No one would volunteer for such a thing.
We would not kill him. We would wait for him to pass. If anything, it would be an act of mercy. Tradition has, of course, always been one that we follow, but if it is at the risk of your town or more lives, I believe it outweighs the good, and the gods will reflect upon that.
Yeah, he grins at you when you said, and says, then perhaps when the moment comes, we will be lucky to have you. I only hope that the Hierophant sees things your way. You cannot always argue logic with the gods, but you're willing to gamble with your own soul, then Wheel of Fortune be on your side. Even so, I have not the heart for it, nor the Lady Davi. She puts up a cold front, but she loves the page as much as I do. These are mortal failings, I understand, but well, we will not stop you if what you have to do is, and you can see him have a hard time even saying, like, kill the page.
Perhaps final words and final mentions are in order. We will shut the door, and I will remain in the room until he does pass.
And he looks over at Baron and says, "Are we so sure that it will be soon? They've been unwell for so long already."
I honestly don't know. He seems extremely weak and he can barely even speak. What I worry about most is the page. If he does become undead, it may stop the reincarnation of the page, and then he'd be lost truly forever.
Yeah, the queen is nodding somberly. If we are beset by devils, then we can at least still hold up with the four corners of the court. But if we were to lose the page and cannot find a new one, then this town is doomed for certain.
We cannot think that way. You must live in the moment. It is not worth thinking about what will happen or what may happen or how it will happen. You must deal with the problems right now. Deal with them as they come.
The queen has stood while you were talking, and approaches you, Zafira, and he's looking at you like kind of like quizzically, and he says, "You're so willful. You remind me of someone, but I can't place whom."
I can't. I just don't say anything.
Yeah, he nods. I suppose it doesn't matter now. Well, magistrates, I can convince the Lady Davi of whatever your plan is. Given time, she will listen to me. The king is headstrong, but will listen to my wisdom, and I will listen to yours.
One last note.
Fear it's too late, but
Be careful about drinking the water in this city. If perhaps a royal decree to not drink this water, it may turn more people before Baron can look at it. For a day or two. Be careful.
Or at the very least to test it and make sure it is pure.
Yeah, he nods and says, only a day or two, and then we have to know for certain. The weather grows hotter every day, and I fear that there are those in the village, children, the old, who will not make it long without water.
Of course. And another thing, the people outside, if there is some way to test and see if they are not plagued, perhaps you should bring them inside, because bodies will begin to fall if this plague has already overtaken the city, and being able to replace them and put them in positions of skill and trade will only benefit you.
You'll need all the help you can get to purify the water.
Yeah, he looks at you, Baron, and says, if you tell me that it's safe to welcome them into our walls, then I will believe you.
I will look them over and see if I see any of the same symptoms I see in the page. And then if I deem it safe, I think they should come in to help.
As you say. All right. So basically, the queen has said, you let me know, and I'll convince the king and the commander of what to do. And hopefully things will start turning out better. And you get the sense, I think, that part of this conversation feels like an unburdening for the queen, when they're like, at least someone else is kind of like calling the shots now, and I don't have to like decide all this shit on my own. It's sort of easy to turn that authority over to you. So if it goes really bad, then maybe the gods will blame you and not him.
Right. I think Zafira probably goes to the page's place of residence and maybe just like is outside the room, and Baron probably goes deals with the water or looks into
Yeah,
that.
it's all part of the same sort of royal complex. So you're not far from where the page is now.
Yeah, I think that's where I head. I turn to Baron and say, I will go and sit outside the page's room. If the moment does pass where he is no longer with us, I do not wish for that body to fester and turn. It could only do unspeakable things. It needs to be dealt with almost immediately.
Yes, I agree. As soon as you see the life leave his body, immediately you must take care of it.
Velimir, what will you be tasking yourself with?
I suppose I can accompany Baron, trying to keep people calm, find out if they are indeed sick. I do not know what else there is for me to do in here, except perhaps consult the fates, but I do not know if that is even productive at this point.
The fates are already working overtime. Do not add to their list. I will meet you at the inn tonight. Perhaps we will have good news from one of our sides.
Hopefully.
I turn and walk out. I'm going to go sit. Basically, if I can get into the page's room, I'll sit there.
Mm-hmm.
If not, I'll sit outside. And maybe I'll just be my normal self. It's fine. I'm not going to hide myself.
So if any of you don't have inspiration already, go ahead and charge it up. And so you head for the page's office. So same place as before. The page is resting in this garden. And when you arrive, you see. I think that when you walk in, you see the heron in the pond struggling to catch a frog that's like floating around in the lilies. So there's a faint splashing kind of as you walk in. And so you see the supine form of the page laying on the divan, and it's cool in here as it was in the other room.
Is there anyone watching over it?
Yeah, there's always servants present.
Okay, I'll approach one of the servants and say, "How is the page doing today?"
She kind of just shakes her head. No change, magistrate. As before, so today.
Are they still speaking?
If you can call it that. Trying, perhaps.
Have you perhaps tried to see if they can put pen to paper?
We have. They're too weak, I'm afraid.
I understand. I will be accompanying you for the rest of the day. If you need anything or anything I can help with, please let me know. And if you do see him pass and stop breathing, the gods forbid, let me know at once.
Of course, Magistrate.
And I just go find the nearest thing and sit down.
Yeah, then there's like shady bench to sit on. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. All right. So while that's happening, Baron, where are you? Where do we find Baron next?
I'm going first to the gate to do an inspection of the villagers to see if I can see if they have the same symptoms as the page, or
Okay.
that inspection of all of them.
Okay, so we cut to you being let out into the little area outside. Now these villagers fled without so much as a bedroll, so they're trying to find shade. Right now the sun is beating down against the wall, so there's nowhere to hide really. So there's like a wagon, and some of them are sitting like the ones with children or the elderly are kind of like against the wagon. They've got the injured lying down, and yeah, it looks just like kind of a bad scene. Like everybody's at least a little hurt, but very scared. And when the door opens, at this point, they don't even seem to have the energy to like leap up and like try to get inside. Some people look kind of forlornly at the gate, but they know that unless there's some divine edict, they're not getting in. So you emerge back into this crowd, and yeah, they're just sort of there.
Okay, Velimir, I need you to help me inspect them. We want to look for pupils that are dilated. That means really large and open, sensitive to the light. I'm just checking. I don't mean to be like Saphira about you, ordering you around, but I'm just making sure that you know. So we want to be looking for sensitivity to light, paleness, cold skin, and let me know if you see any of that as we're looking through the villagers.
Yes.
Okay.
We're just going to go through and try to see each one like as quickly as we can to see if they have any of the symptoms.
Sure. Yeah. Make a medicine check, and you can do it with advantage. You've got you've got Nurse Velimir giving you a hand.
Okay.
Well, fucking Christ.
Double tens. Okay.
Yeah.
And you guidance for an 11. Okay.
So
okay.
11.
Could I make the same check or no?
No, your Y Baron had advantage. Now with a 10, same sort of basic knowledge. Yeah, like these people are sick. Some of them have wounds that are certain to kill them if they don't get like focused medical attention. There's dehydration, right? Because they could drink the water out of the fields, but it's muddy and probably wouldn't have an easy time of it. But they're dehydrated. They're hungry. Many of them are injured. But you don't see any of the signs of the same wasting away that the page had. It seems that these people are hurt and in rough shape, but assuming there's a contagion, these folks don't have it.
Okay. So I go to the guards and say that order them to open the gates to let the people in and help the injured inside.
Okay. Yeah. And they know you're empowered by the word of the queen. So they do. They open the gates and people start to slowly like rise and begin to shuffle in.
As the lady with the baby comes past, I just kind of give her like a nice little nod.
Okay.
And also gather as many healers and priests in the town that can help with the injured to help treat the wounds of the people.
Okay. So you want to take them to like the temple?
The temple,
Okay.
That temple would be like our triage area.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So you lead them to the temple, and I think that you see a man watching. Maybe Velimir you notice because Baron is like pretty attentive on doing this stuff. There's a man who's definitely not a farmer. He's not one of the goat riders. He sticks out because he's dressed in clothes you wouldn't necessarily see here. He has like knee-length black silk like pantaloons, I guess, and he's got a black silk tunic, and he has one of those like rice farmer like sampan hats, the big like tall hat, and it's on. He's standing in the shade, so it's like on his back, and he's leaning on a quarterstaff, but he's also got a like scimitar in his belt, and you notice that he's got his sleeves rolled up and his shirt is open, and all of the skin from his like neck to his fingertips is covered in like swirly tattoos. And he's just standing there, like shuffling a deck of cards, like watching as the crowd comes in. He definitely like sticks out to you.
Yeah. Velamir just kind of motions to Baron. Look at that man over there. You noticed him before, perhaps in the inn.
I wasn't paying attention, but he definitely something
I
seems
did not
off.
notice him very much before. He was
Yeah.
just a man to me, but very peculiar, no?
Yeah. I'm very busy with helping all these people. Maybe you could just go talk with him and see if you can feel him up and see what's going on with him.
You would like me to feel him up, would you?
Not literally. Just
Of course, I know.
see if you can find out who he is.
If I die, Baron, you know where I went.
We are surrounded by guards. Need help? Just yell.
All right, Velamir goes and walks over and approaches the man.
Okay. Yeah, he looks up, notices that you're approaching, kind of pretends not to care, right? Like he looks at you and then goes back to like shuffling his cards.
You there, pretending not to care.
He looks up.
Who are you?
He responds in primordial, just a traveler.
I'm assuming I know Primordial.
Yeah, it's the language of your people. He has like a fairly heavy like water accent, but yeah, it's primordial.
What is your business here? You were in the inn the other night, yes?
He nods. I've been in this town several days now.
And what do you make of what is going on here? You are not a regular traveler. This I know just from your appearance.
He nods and looks around and says, "This is a town in some trouble, I think." Like continually, like these like heavy cardboard like cards. He's like shuffling.
Your powers of observation are amazing, truly dazzling. Are you here to help or simply just stand by?
He shrugs and he says, "It's not in my nature to help. Watch sometimes."
Where are you from, traveler?
He smirks at you and says, "Far away, as are you."
Shall we continue to speak in the riddles?
He just continues to shuffle. He's like, "I have all the time in the world."
What are those cards there?
He looks at them and says, "I spent some time at the school for fortune tellers where I am from. I dropped out, but some habits die hard."
Have you been telling many fortunes lately, or do you just shuffle them for fun now?
He says, "I've stopped asking the fates for their input. Everything always turns out the same way."
This is something I'm inclined to agree with you about as of late.
Yeah, he nods.
What sort of authority do you obey then? Unless you just are a lone traveler, as I am inclined to think.
Yeah, he says, I follow the wheel like everyone else. I go where the wind takes me. Right now, he like looks around. He says right now and looks around and he says, right now I wish the wind would take me someplace else.
Why don't you just leave? What is keeping you here?
Curiosity mostly.
May I ask your name?
He smiles and he says, "Yes, but I'm not going to tell it to you."
You are an interesting one. I do not know what to make of you quite yet.
He grins and he says, "I'm sure you'll have another chance."
You're going to be in this town for a bit yet? Yes. Pardon my speech, it's been a long day.
He says, I think so. Yes. Unless something more interesting comes along. And right now, and he like looks over at all the people like funneling into the temple. He's like, "I don't think there's much interesting beyond this for a while. I'll watch to see how this plays out."
Stick around. We may have use for you yet. And as you say, this is very interesting, is it not?
Yeah, he does like kind of like a mock curtsy, and he says, "I aim to please."
Velamir does the same and just goes,
Yeah, totally.
knocks over his green screen.
Yeah, Okay, cool. Yeah, and he like you can go back to like helping Baron with the refugees, but he just stays and kind of like watches curiously.
Mm-hmm. All right. I go back to Baron and I don't actually say anything right away. I just continue to help him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretend this green screen is me attending to people.
The poor green screen has fallen down and must be rescued. So Baron, you wanted us to like take the lead and kind of orchestrate getting people the help that they need and like point out, because everyone here, like there are some, it's mostly like midwives and like folks more used to treating animals than people, really. But they do have some skill at surgery. There's some folks with, some degree of medical training. So you can kind of organize them and try to like get them headed in the right direction, like taking care of the right people.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm doing, just trying to, and also telling them that about the water and how it needs to be purified before we use any of the water for drinking or anything else.
So that whole purify the water thing doesn't make any sense to anybody. They're like, it's the holy river, like it's pure already. Like, of course, like I don't. What do you mean? What do I do?
It usually helps to boil the water. If any priests know any cleansing spells, to cast it on the water before it's used. Because basically we feel that there may be something amiss in the water. Before we drink it, we should purify it.
Okay. Yeah, it's very confusing to them. Like when you're like, we should boil the water, they're like, but then my insides will burn. Why would we drink boiling water? That's madness. But like eventually you kind of walk them through like, this is what we did in the monastery. This is how you make beer safe to drink. It works the same for water. You got to boil it first. But yeah, they have a hard time. But like, yeah, the river is a very sacred thing for them. It brings life, and the idea that it might be corrupted. You definitely get the impression that like the more level-headed, the acolytes and stuff, they listen, but people are getting nervous. The idea that they're not allowed to just drink from the sacred river is like, and you hear more than once people talking about like, oh, the Mara and like the river's poison and stuff, and like starting to get kind of like tense about that. And it's no question that rumor will spread throughout the town soon.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So where do you go after that? After you're done, kind of like getting that set up, like Zafira, I think you spend most of your day kind of in the garden.
Yeah, and I'm just sitting there waiting, watching.
Highly uneventful. Right? It's like sitting.
Page die.
Yeah, it's like it's you're in palliative care, right? You're just hanging out.
Is there a specific moment where perhaps people leave the room and like change their rotation or their shift is the word I'm looking for?
Yeah. I mean, I think so. If you're looking for something like that, sure.
So there's moments where there's no one else in the room?
There could be. Usually like a servant will come and say like, okay, go and eat something, and I will watch the page, and then
someone is
switch. So you're never really like alone, but
Gotcha.
You can easily just tell them to go away. Like,
yeah. And then the other thing, does he say anything at all that day? He just sits there and kind of...
Yeah, the page is utterly silent unless like directly addressed, and the servants don't really address them directly anymore.
He's not... he doesn't seem in pain?
No. You can see them like their chest moving up and down as they breathe slowly, but yeah, they seem just still and quiet.
Okay. And Baron, you like checked his body and stuff, right? Like he was...
Yeah, there was no like he wasn't injured on the outside. It's just something all on the inside. You can't tell other than his like just emaciated appearance. He's just there's nothing physically, like there's no wounds or anything.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, yeah, I sit there all day.
Okay.
All right, yeah, I just sit there all day.
Sure.
As I'm walking with Baron to wherever we are going, I'm just informing him of the guy. Like, did you see the man that I talked to about before?
Oh yeah, the guy. What did you get? What was he like?
Very, very peculiar man. Spoke a little bit like me. Unwilling to share much. He called himself a traveler, not an ordinary one by any means. He had a staff and was outfitted with weaponry. Apparently just a traveler who is here because this is interesting. He may be of assistance or maybe somebody to keep an eye out.
What was in his hands? He kept. Was it like cards or something? What was he doing?
He said he once was a fortune teller of sorts, but now it seems like this is merely just a memento from his past. I do not know. He may be an asset to us. We will have to keep an eye on him for certain. I believe trying times, no doubt, are coming. We are going to need to use all the utilities and assets we have. We shall keep an eye on him.
You said he spoke Genasi, or the primordial?
In a different tongue, yes. A different dialect of sorts.
Then we need to keep an eye on him because the villagers mentioned something about primordials when they looked at Saphira. So let's just keep an eye on him to make sure that he's on par. He could be here to help. He could just be a traveler, like he says, or he could be part of the enemy for all we know.
I agree.
I think we should talk to him further at some point.
Either way, I will be keeping an eye on him.
All right. We should go check on Saphira.
And inform what we know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we'll head over.
Bored stiff waiting all day.
Yeah, she probably needs to order you around for entertainment again.
Another work like that, and you will find you need a long rest.
All right, let's go talk to her.
Cool.
I'm going to wait a Baron or to Saphira.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, it's probably better that that Baron is there in case the page ends up being undead, because then Baron can turn the page. So you go to I'm sorry. You go to the palace and you're led to the page's resting chamber. You've seen this before, Baron. And yeah, Saphira, after what seems like 1,000 years, your friends come back. It's late afternoon, going into evening, starting to get a bit cooler, or damper at least. You can hear insects in the garden that live here starting to make noise. There's some cicadas that are chirping, and so you're brought into the garden. And Saphira, what are you doing when they arrive? You're just like sitting still on the bench?
Yeah, I'm just sitting still, and I see them come in. I turn my head and say, it was a quiet afternoon. I'm sad to see you here. Did it go well with the... Hold on.
What is that noise?
All right, I made it on stream so I didn't have there. Did you teach the priest how to turn the water?
Yes, we have a team of people that are in charge of purifying the water before it's used. The villagers didn't seem to be infected. We have them being treated in the temple. Things are much more calmer now, with everything seeming. Everyone's calming down a little bit, although people are kind of nervous about the water, and there's definitely tension amongst all the villagers right now.
Did you perhaps test it? Was it the same thing that we were seeing in the southern towns?
I haven't had a chance to go to the river yet to test the water, but from visual look, there's definitely wasn't that purple color of the water we saw from the south.
I think it is yet too early for the water to be how it was before.
Yeah, I mean, you'd know fairly easily because the river runs through the town. There's like a little stone bridge that connects the two sides of the river, and if the river got all funky and weird, you'd be able to tell just by walking by it.
Well, that is good news in some regard, I guess. The page has been very still remains alive. It's a very simple day over here. I believe I will stay with him through the night. It probably is the best course of action. I do not know if the guards remain in this room the entire night, but I wish to be here the second he does turn, so he can at least be... Are there guards still in the room?
There aren't any guards. There's nobody guarding.
But there's other people.
There's always at least two servants.
Okay, so as I say that, and I look at the two servants, and so that he could be taken care of, as one of this status in the town should be, And I kind of just roll my eyes to the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps we should inform the queen of your findings. He will probably want to know that information. At least can return the water to the rest of the town once you, of course, pass by the river to check.
Yeah,
There is one
definitely.
peculiar individual that I saw while Baron was attending to the refugees. Speaking somewhat similar and primordial like me, but different. He's a bit of an oddity. Staying by himself, watching the others. You may have noticed him in the inn the other night. I thought nothing of him. But he had some guards. When questioned, he did not reveal his name. Merely a traveler, he said.
Was this
Not
traveler a Genasi like you and I?
Yeah, I can't remember. He wasn't,
No,
right?
he was a human. He just had a lot of weird tattoos.
No, not as such. He looked strange, of course, but humanoid.
That
But spoke in
is
a primordial tongue.
that is very out of the ordinary for a human to speak our tongue.
It is indeed.
Did you perhaps see where he went to after you left? Did you follow?
I did not.
It might be worth speaking with this man.
I told him I would be keeping an eye on him, but I figured I would speak with you first.
I mean, you are free to make your own motives and missions, Velimir, but
This I am
I
aware.
am glad that you brought this to me. I am intrigued by this. A human speaking our tongue is extraordinary.
I do not know at this point whether or not they are on our side or someone who is just here to watch what happens and what unfolds. I will be keeping an eye on them, as we all should. I figured I would tell you. Do not mistake me informing you of what happened as approval.
I will not. I will not. I will remain here. If you wish to join me, by all means. If you wish to track him, by all means. If you wish to join Baron, by all means. But a
You
quiet
continue
night is...
Pale one. I feel this duty would bore me.
It is very quiet here. I enjoy it, though. Baron, are you going to go test the waters? What is your objective for the eve?
Yes, I will go double check the water, see if we see any signs of what we saw in the village, and then we should definitely give the queen an update.
Perhaps first thing in the morning. If the page does not make it through the night, we can deliver both pieces of news at once.
Sounds good to me.
Baron, do you perhaps remember when we were fighting in that town, or Velimir? Was it simply a blow to remove the head was the quickest way to deal with those enemies? I'm looking for the fastest and quickest route to perhaps ending this horror from happening.
Did
I
we
believe so, yes.
did we see the skeletons and how they dealt with the undead? Remember, we saw the undead attacking the turned villagers.
Speaking
I
just
can't
out of-
remember.
I think I remember that we just like any actual normal attacks did nothing.
Yeah, you have to like really severely decapitate them,
have to, like,
or
decapitate
use
them, like,
or use radiant damage. Yeah, the skeletons were like chopping them up, basically.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll just remove his head.
His head and then destroy the head, basically.
Yeah,
And everything else, yeah.
okay.
Basically mutilate.
Perhaps I will go and speak with the queen one last time this eve to inform him of what will happen if he does indeed turn. Nevertheless, we should speak with him in the morning. Perhaps we can meet up there. I will stay the night and guard the body in case.
Yes.
I will keep an eye on the town a little
Perhaps-
bit. To see our friend
perhaps
one
in the-
more time.
Perhaps during the night, Velimir, you should make a quiet inspection of our friend that you saw.
This is what I was saying. Yes. I will
Yes,
be doing this.
good. If you need me to, I can distract him if you want to just go through his room or something.
Yes, you could shuffle your armor.
Yes.
I would be careful. Do not engage this person. As I said, a man speaking our tongue and not of our race is concerning.
True. Like I said, I am not sure at this point whether or not he is an asset or a liability to this town. It has enough problems on its own, but I'm inclined to think if he wanted to make a move, he would do so already or if not already, very soon, as he sees the deteriorating state of this town. I will stay in the shadows.
One could say that he's already made moves, and I kind of point towards the page. But who knows? We do not know this man's motive. But I do wish to find it, so I might speak with him tomorrow if we can find him in the city.
Do what you must. I will see what is up in the town tonight and remain in the shadows.
Understood. I will see you guys tomorrow. Good luck. Hopefully we have better news.
Enjoy your babysitting.
It will be much quieter without your voice. I will miss it, but it will be okay, my friend. I go back to like sitting almost in like a yoga pose on the chair.
Delamere attempts to Batman vanish.
All right, well, roll stealth. Let's see if you can Batman your way out of
You
here.
do it.
Do it,
This is
do
gonna be
it.
hilarious if I don't. Yeah.
That's pretty good. I think that's probably enough to bet. That's higher than Zafira and Baron's passive perception. So yeah, you Batman.
do the same thing again and then just realize that I'm gone?
He did it again.
Commissioner Hillstern hates it when you do that.
I guess
Well,
I will
okay.
stay here and he's
He's gone.
Awesome. Okay, so the two of you head out, and Zafira, you're going to stay and remain vigilant over the page.
Yep. I'm just
Okay.
kind of waiting for his dying breath, and then I'm just gonna go over and chop his head off.
Okay. So as I guess night falls, do we want to take a break here?
Yeah, let's take a break for hour 3. Then, of course, when we come back, we'll go into the final hour here of week number 6. Don't go anywhere. The action concludes right after this. We'll see you guys then.
Sweet.